Okay, I didn't do it on purpose, it just kinda happened. So, I recently had to end my relationship with my girlfriend. It turns out she was a major witch. First, she started trying to be a famous Instagram fitness girl. Then, once she got a following, she started doing more risque things progressively to the point where she was literally posting ungodly stuff. Eventually, I got somewhat not okay with it because I didn't want to date someone who exposed herself to any guy with $30. So I asked her if she would stop. She said no. A bunch of arguments ensued, and I thought it was best to end our 2-year relationship. So, a little after the breakup, I'm getting absolutely wasted with my friends for the first time in a while since my ex thought I had a drinking problem. And like any guy who just got his heart broken, I talk about her. I guess I bring up my ex's job. I don't remember the night too well. But a few days ago, she shows up at my apartment and screams in my face how awful I am. I ask what the big deal is, and she tells me that my buddy sent her photos to her dad. I tell her I knew nothing about that. I literally didn't. She tells me her parents will stop paying for her school and tells me never to speak to her again and storms off. I've talked to my friends about it, the ones that didn't message her dad, and they didn't think I did anything wrong. But of course, all my girlfriends and my sisters thought I was wrong. Am I the idiot? I may be one because my actions led to her getting financially abandoned. Yes, you are the idiot for shaming her, telling your pals about it, and having so much to drink you don't remember doing so. Sure, she's a bit of an idiot for doing something that would put her school funding in jeopardy, but how'd the friend even find the link? Presumably, if she kept it far away from her dad, she couldn't be easily searchable by name. So what provoked the friend to send it to the dad? You! I feel you were both drinking so much that you and your buddy went way over the line. It's one thing to share a few shots complaining about a bad breakup. It's another to ruin your ex's life. Assumption, but they probably found it just canvassing her social media. People aren't careful with what they post on social media and will often have their parents tagged in Instagram pictures. Another way would just be looking through her following or her friends list and find some with the same last name. You are the idiot for the way you're speaking about her and your total lack of empathy for her situation. It's her body, her choice. You have no obligation to stay with her if you don't like the changes she's making to her life. But shaming her for it and calling her names just makes you look stupid. Not the idiot. These comments are absurd. You dated this woman for 2 years. It is safe to assume that she should have known you wouldn't be okay with her doing this. Perhaps she knew you wouldn't have even entertained dating someone who did such a job. She knew your boundaries and disregarded them. I don't care if she did this for money. She sent her photos to other people without your consent. She cheated on you. She showed no remorse for it and continued to disrespect you and your boundaries, knowing how much her behavior hurt you. She threw this all at you quite recently, too. She gave you little time to understand and have input, or to perhaps compromise. You can't be in a monogamous relationship and then unilaterally decide to start such an account. The fact that she did this all without explicitly talking to OP first and proceeding with it without his approval instead of breaking things off with him is absolutely a mess up of her. She cheated on him, guys. Once again, not the idiot. You had every right to vent about her betrayal to your friends. Get a grip, people. Thank God, someone is finally making sense. I can't believe the number of people judging OP for how he reacted to his partner selling her pics and disregarding his feelings over it. The guy broke up with his girlfriend, drank too much, and told his friends the reason for the breakup. Anyone acting as if they would never do that is lying to themselves. I mean, OP, you were together for a couple of years, and then she starts her account. You voiced your displeasure with the situation and broke up. Then you seek comfort from your friends while drinking. One friend of his own volition, per you, sends the incriminating evidence of her side hustle to her parents. Yeah, it could be strung as your fault, but you didn't tell him to do it. He was just kind of being a petty homie. You are not the idiot, but your friend is. When my female 22, little sister 19, was a little girl, I promised her I'd take her on a 2-week trip of her choosing when she graduated high school. We've spent the last 5 years planning the ultimate trip, and I've been saving since I made the promise. It obviously got postponed, And now that everything has been open again for a bit, we're aiming to go next month. My sister's boyfriend, 18, kinda sucks. He's great to her, but they are viciously in the honeymoon phase. And the last 5 months have been crappy for our friends and me. We have many mutual friends because we are close in age. So I've heard plenty of stories of him showing up to the girls' night because she invited him without telling anyone. Every time we go to a movie, even if we say don't invite him, he's at the theater when we get there. They spend the whole movie borderline making out. He has consumed every snack in my apartment on multiple occasions with no reimbursement. He gets embarrassingly high every time I see him. I smoke regularly, but there's a level of high you just shouldn't be around other people. They're literally inseparable, and there's been a few disagreements because she is very obvious about the fact that we're all backups from when he's busy. Well, last week, she said he had taken time off work to go on the trip with us. Didn't even ask, just said it as we'd already talked about it, and he was invited. They expected me to pay his portion and be fine with third wheeling the whole trip. I laughed until I realized she was serious and said absolutely not. She whined that he'd already taken the days off, which I feel bad about, but he wasn't invited. She wouldn't drop it and said she wouldn't go if he couldn't come. So I said, fine, no trip, whatever. We haven't spoken since, and I feel like maybe I should have just dealt with it. Our friends are glad someone finally said something, but think maybe taking the trip was a little much. Am I the idiot? Edit. To clarify a bit on the money thing, she seemed to think that since I was paying for her and the trip was for her, that if she brought someone, I would cover that too, because the trip was a gift. I've known I was going to pay for her from the start. It is a gift. I just didn't think I'd have to put a one-person limit in the deal. Not the idiot. She's the one that made the ultimatum, and so she's got to live with the consequences. For the record, you didn't cancel it, she did. I'd be angry if I were in your shoes, and my sister threw away 5 years of planning for a boy. She's going to regret that later. Not the idiot. Honestly, this boy is kind of the idiot. Like he doesn't ask you to make sure it's okay, and didn't even offer to pay for some of it. Nah, man, it was a sister trip, and if she wants to go on a couple trip, they can pay for it. Keep the money for another trip and treat yourself. It's your money. Do what you want. Your sister is also the idiot in the story too. She's very selfish. Doesn't ask or anything. Did she save up money for this trip? If so, then she can pay for her and her boyfriend to go on their own trip. Not the idiot. It was supposed to be a sister's trip. She's being crappy right now, but I suggest you be the bigger person and save the money for the trip so that when they break up, you can have a sister's trip to celebrate the breakup. Ugh. I remember being in that awkward young love phase and thinking my boyfriend was everything. Your sister will realize, and I'm sure feel super bad about this eventually, but I'm sure she's not trying to be malicious, just absolutely whipped. I hope you guys can have the sister's trip you deserve one day. For context, my 24 female, boyfriend 30, and I recently moved in together. It's something we've been talking about, and when his lease ended, he moved into my apartment. I have a cat, Millie. She is my baby girl that I've had since she was a kitten. Back when my boyfriend and I first started dating, he made the joke that if we ever were going to live together, he'd have to, quote, get rid of that cat, which I dismissed at the time. When he came over, he would ignore Millie, making jokes about how cats are stuck up and how much he's a dog person. Again, I dismissed this because he never acted hostile towards her. I figured it was just a preference. When we started to get serious about moving in, he asked if I would consider giving her away because he didn't like the idea of living with a cat. I almost laughed before realizing he was serious. I told him that under no circumstances would I get rid of my cat. I felt guilty about being unwilling to compromise, but he actually took it well and reassured me that if she was this important to me, he'd get over it. Fast forward to last night, I don't think he realized I was in the kitchen when he came home. Millie was on the couch, and I heard him go into the room and give this sigh. Before I could call out, I heard him say, "You're so stupid and worthless." It terrified me because I've never even heard him speak with such malice. He sounded like a different person. It was so cold and hostile that I panicked and rushed out there to see him looking at Millie. Here's where I might be the idiot. I completely freaked out. I was yelling, asking what he thought he was doing talking to her like that. He jumped, and I scooped Millie up and told him to leave my apartment right now. He looked so stunned and started to argue, asking where he was supposed to go. I told him that I don't care, he just needs to leave. He was pissed and said he was going for a drive and slammed the door behind him. I immediately started sobbing and holding Millie. I was shaking and she could tell I was upset and kept cuddling me. Finally, she calmed me down, and later when he texted asking if he could come back, I said yes. I put Millie in the bedroom so we could talk. We were both a lot calmer, and I felt awful after he explained his side. I'll often call Millie little names, and he said he was just trying to be playfully mean too and misjudged his tone. But he said it felt awful that I chose a cat over him and that I called it my apartment when it's supposed to be our place. He told me he was constantly feeling second best to Millie, who I wouldn't even consider rehoming, and I had thrown him out over an animal when he's a person. I explained to him how much he means to me and apologized for making him feel like this wasn't his home. I think I might have overreacted, but I just don't know. He's my boyfriend, and she's something I keep refusing to compromise on. But I also don't believe that he misjudged his tone. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, and he's lying now. Don't let him gaslight you. Your cat is going to go missing someday. If for some reason you do continue this, make sure you have plenty of photographs of her and you as proof that she's yours and that she's microchipped, because she will end up on the streets or dropped off at a shelter. He's absolutely lying and gaslighting her. The whole "you chose an animal over me, a person," doesn't sit well with me either. First of all, because he's deliberately misrepresenting the situation, and secondly, because of the mentality behind it. Her cat is entirely reliant on her, whereas his grown-up butt could find a way to survive on his own if he were kicked out. When you adopt an animal, you agree to take full responsibility for its care and well-being. So yeah, if my adult boyfriend suddenly decides one day that he has a problem with my cat, unless he has a darn good reason, you better believe he's the one who's going to be finding himself a new home. Not the idiot. Rehome your idiot boyfriend. You shouldn't have dismissed those earlier jokes. On the first date, you should have said something like, "All jokes aside, I would never get rid of my cat." I call nonsense on the worthless comment being his attempt at being playful. He's just making up excuses because you caught him. The way a person talks about an animal or treats an animal is a good indication of the type of person they are. After all the talk about wanting to get rid of her, I could never trust him alone with her. How do I know he won't poison her, physically hurt her, or dump her on the side of the road? If it was my boyfriend, he would be gone, flat out gone. Girl, he just played you. He must have the world's worst sense of humor to call something stupid and worthless and think it is a joke. And you believed him? That car ride alone gave him the opportunity he needed to manipulate the situation in the way that worked for him. Notice how he said something cruel, and you still ended up being the one who apologized and reassured him. That wasn't a coincidence. So I, female 22, was invited to dinner by my friend, 20, earlier this week. This friend and I have been friends for a couple years now, and she knows I'm vegan. She is an omnivore, but that's never bothered either of us. When we cooked for each other, I'd sometimes add meat or egg to her dish since she likes it, and she'd make a vegan dish while she enjoyed her meat dish. It's always been fine between us until now. I arrive on Tuesday night and see that she cooked us both grain bowls. She had meat in hers while mine was meat-free. We're sitting there talking and enjoying our meals. I excuse myself to go to the bathroom after I eat about half. When I'm finished, I go back out. As soon as I take a bite, she starts laughing. I'm confused until the spice hits my tongue. She told me she'd put some hot sauce in my bowl, hoping to catch me off guard. I'm fine with this. I like spice. And to be honest, I thought it was a bit funny. Plus, I thought the hot sauce gave it flavor. But after I finish, she finally tells me the real reason she was laughing. She added some bacon bits to my bowl and added hot sauce to cover up the taste. She said she did it to prove that I'm not a vegan since I like the meat. Here's where I think I may have been an idiot. I took her bowl, which still had about half of her food on there, she's a slow eater, and dumped it in the trash can, plate and all. She basically yells, "What the heck?" and looks at me like I'm nuts. I call her an idiot for doing that, and she proved nothing. She then tells me to get out of her house, and I do. She texted me a few days later, saying that she wants an apology and money to cover the cost of the food I threw away before she even considers talking to me again. I didn't respond. On the one hand, I think she's in the wrong for what she did, but on the other hand, I think I overreacted. She sounds like a horrible friend. You are not the idiot. And please drop this girl. If you were Muslim and this was a religious belief, it would be an assault. It's never funny to mess with other people's food. She should apologize to you. They believe that the other person doesn't eat because they don't like the taste, and they see it as a challenge to prove otherwise. The idea that anyone can have a different motive to not eat something is likely alien to them. You are the idiot. What you did was wrong, but what you did was also wrong. Veganism is not only about eating nothing from animals, it's also about living sustainably, and you threw away food. That's not sustainable. That's petty and dumb. Your friend shouldn't have deceived and tricked you, but you should have been a mature young adult with self-control, not childishly throwing someone's plate, etc., into the trash. Hopefully you learn to walk away or count to 30 to get some self-control to deal with stuff like this in the future. Not the idiot. Liking or not liking something doesn't mean you have to eat it. Adding meat to a vegan's diet can really mess up their digestive system, and that's not nice. Hey, just adding the hot sauce would have been enough for me to nope out of that. Hot sauce really messes with my stomach, and the hours of pain aren't worth it. People who do stuff like this are not friends. They are bullies. My wife and I have a little daughter, Ellie. Ellie loves cookies and takes it very seriously when her cookies go missing. My wife is also pregnant with twins and sometimes loses track of how many cookies she eats. Last night, my wife came to me and said she ate the rest of the cookies. I said no problem and that we'll go to the store today for more. Ellie went to the kitchen for a snack and looked into the cookie jar to find it empty. She ran to me and said that we had an emergency. The cookies were missing. I helped her look for them, but she realized they were really gone after a few minutes. I told her the Cookie Monster must have snuck in while she was sleeping and stolen the cookies. Needless to say, she's furious at the Cookie Monster right now. I took her to Target, and when we were buying cookies, she said we need to get another package to hide in the pantry if the Cookie Monster came back. I said that was a good idea, and we left with our replacement cookies and our emergency cookies. When we got home, my wife pulled me aside and said that I shouldn't have said the Cookie Monster stole the cookies when I knew she did it, and that I'm implying that she's the Cookie Monster. I didn't think it was a big deal, but she seemed pretty hurt, so I wanted to know if I was the idiot. OMG, I love how wholesome this is. Not the idiot. Your wife is pregnant, so she's extra sensitive, which is totally normal. I hope your daughter will forgive the actual Cookie Monster. Eventually. He was my favorite when I was a kid. I have a feeling he's gonna sneak in again tonight and leave an "I'm sorry for stealing your cookies" card. She should be fine once she gets an apology. No idiots here. Little kids can't overreact and get very upset over tiny things. She's clearly ticked at the Cookie Monster. I can also see your wife being upset or even embarrassed about being the Cookie Monster. Though it'd be a lot more embarrassing if your daughter had said, "I need to hide the cookies, or else mommy will eat all of them." Having her be mad at the Cookie Monster keeps her from being mad at her mom, so nobody has done anything wrong, except the Cookie Monster. Not the idiot, but pregnancy hormones are hilarious. It's not like OP said, mommy is the Cookie Monster. OP's wife is probably feeling sensitive. A lot of us kind of feel like whales when we're pregnant, so any remark that suggests we're chunky pigs really hurts our feelings. So I just apologize to your wife and promise not to use that term again, but make it clear you were just trying to have fun with your kid.